"You paid for me, now do it." The rancher did it. And then he had a wife Wild West tales. Her boots sank slightly into the dry earth as she looked around, taking in the small town with its wooden storefronts, swinging saloon doors, and the distant hills that seemed to stretch endlessly. She had traveled for days, her only companions the sparse belongings she carried in a worn suitcase and a few coins tucked into her pocket. The journey had been long and exhausting, but she had a purpose, even if she didn't yet know exactly what the future held. Clara's life had never been easy. She had grown up in a nearby settlement where hard work and constant struggle were part of daily life. Her parents had passed when she was very young, leaving her to fend for herself. Every day had been a lesson in survival, learning to work hard, to stand tall even when the world seemed against her, and to keep hope alive, even when there was little reason to. Now, as she looked around Red Creek, she felt both fear and excitement. Fear because she was alone in a strange town, and excitement because she knew this could be the place where her life would change. The town was just waking up. A few early risers were sweeping the wooden sidewalks, while the smell of fresh bread wafted from the bakery at the corner. Clara walked slowly, absorbing the sights and sounds. She noticed children running between the buildings, a blacksmith hammering metal in his shop, and the occasional horse-drawn wagon creaking along the dirt road. Despite its small size, Red Creek had a feeling of life and movement, a kind of quiet energy that seemed to welcome her, even if no one knew she was coming. Her destination was the ranch on the outskirts of town. It was known to everyone in Red Creek, though few had ever been there. Owned by Samuel, a man of few words and even fewer friends, the ranch was vast, stretching across rolling plains and dotted with wooden fences and grazing cattle. Samuel himself was a figure of curiosity. He had a reputation for being fair but strict, a man who respected hard work and expected the same from anyone who stepped onto his land. Clara had heard stories about him from travelers along the way. Some said he was stern, others said he was kind, but all agreed that he had a sense of justice and integrity that set him apart. As she approached the ranch gates, Clara felt a flutter of nerves in her chest. She had never asked anyone for work before, never needed to rely on another person to give her a chance. But here she was, standing at the threshold of opportunity, and she knew she had to be brave. She took a deep breath, adjusted the strap of her suitcase on her shoulder, and walked toward the ranch house. Samuel was outside, inspecting the fences. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a face weathered by years of sun and wind. His eyes, however, were sharp and observant, taking in every detail around him. When he noticed Clara, he paused, studying her with a calm intensity. Clara stopped a few feet away, unsure how to start. Finally, she gathered her courage and spoke. I was told you might need help," she said softly. Samuel's gaze didn't waver. He looked her up and down, noting the determination in her posture, the steadiness in her eyes. After a long moment he spoke, his voice low but firm. "You paid for me, now do it." Clara blinked. She didn't quite understand his words at first. She thought he might be joking, or perhaps testing her. But then she realized he was referring to a few coins she had handed over to secure her first day of work, money she had saved from odd jobs and careful planning. It was a strange way to speak, but she didn't hesitate. She nodded, understanding that this was her chance, her opportunity to prove herself. The first tasks were simple but demanding. Samuel led her to the barns, showing her how to feed the cattle, check the water troughs, and repair fences. Each task was harder than it looked, requiring both strength and patience. Clara worked steadily, her hands growing calloused and her arms sore, but she felt a sense of pride she had never known before. She was learning not just how to work, but how to survive and thrive in a place where the land itself seemed to test those who lived on it. Samuel watched her quietly, offering guidance when necessary but never taking over. He had a way of teaching that demanded attention and respect. Every word he spoke was deliberate, every gesture purposeful. Clara quickly realized that he valued not only effort but intelligence and quick thinking. If she could anticipate problems before they arose, if she could adapt and respond, he respected her even more. By the end of the day, the sun had sunk low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ranch. Clara was exhausted, but her heart felt light with accomplishment. Samuel approached her, his expression unreadable. "You've got grit," he said simply. "Not everyone can handle this place. Stick around and you'll learn more than you think." For the first time in a long while, Clara felt a sense of belonging. She wasn't just a wanderer passing through. She was part of something bigger, part of a rhythm and routine that demanded her best. And though Samuel remained reserved, she sensed a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition that she was capable, that she belonged here in some way. That night, Clara settled into the small room that had been prepared for her in the ranch house. The simple bed and wooden furniture were modest, but they were hers for now. As she lay down, she thought about the long day, about the work she had done, and about the strange, cryptic words Samuel had spoken. She realized that life on the ranch would not be easy, but it would be honest and rewarding. Outside, the wind rustled through the fields, carrying with it the sense of hay, earth, and distant pine. Clara listened to the quiet, feeling both a sense of calm and anticipation. She knew that this was only the beginning, that many challenges awaited her, that she would need to work hard, earn trust, and prove herself again and again. But she also knew that she had taken the first step toward a new life, one that might finally give her the security, purpose, and perhaps even the companionship she had longed for. As sleep finally claimed her, Clara dreamed not of the hardships she had faced, but of the possibilities ahead. The ranch, Samuel, and the wide-open plains were now part of her story, and she felt ready to face whatever came next. With determination in her heart and resolve in her mind, she knew that she had arrived at a place where her courage and perseverance could truly shine. And so, the story of Clara's new life began, under the endless sky of Red Creek, where every sunrise promised a new challenge, a new lesson, and perhaps a new connection that would change her life forever. The morning sun spilled golden light across the ranch, painting the fields and fences in warm colors. Clara woke early, as she had learned on her first day, to the quiet sounds of the animals and the distant hills. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of hay, earth, and the faint aroma of breakfast being prepared in the ranch house. She stretched and took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. Today would be another test, another opportunity to prove that she belonged here. As she stepped outside, she saw Samuel already in the fields, checking on the cattle. His presence was calm yet commanding, as if the ranch itself moved with his attention. Clara approached him carefully, unsure how to greet him. He looked up from his work, noticing her, and gave a simple nod. "Ready to start?" he asked, his voice steady and measured. Clara nodded back, feeling a quiet confidence rising within her. Samuel led her to the northern pastures, where a group of young cattle had wandered closer to the fence than they should have. Clara had observed the way he handled the animals the day before, but now she would need to put her knowledge into action. Samuel handed her a rope and gestured toward the cattle. "Keep them calm. Don't rush. Watch their movements and move slowly. They'll respond to your energy, not your strength." Clara followed his instructions carefully. She moved steadily, her hands firm but gentle, her voice soft as she guided the animals back toward the center of the pasture. The cattle responded to her surprisingly well, and she felt a thrill of accomplishment. Samuel watched silently, occasionally stepping in to guide her when needed. By the time the animals were settled, Clara's arms were tired and her shirt damp with sweat, but her heart swelled with pride. She had managed the task without incident, and she could see the faintest hint of approval in Samuel's eyes. After the cattle were secure, Samuel led Clara to the barn, where chores awaited. The barn was a large wooden structure filled with the smells of hay, animals, and the faint tang of oil and metal from the tools stored there. Clara learned to muck out stalls, feed the horses, and repair broken equipment. Each task required focus and strength, and each task taught her something new about the rhythm of ranch life. Samuel was patient but firm, allowing her to learn by doing, correcting mistakes gently but without hesitation. As the day went on, Clara began to notice the subtler aspects of the ranch. She observed the way Samuel moved, how he anticipated problems before they happened, how he could read the animals' behavior as easily as reading a book. She noticed the quiet way he treated his workers, never shouting or demanding, but expecting respect and diligence. There was a wisdom in his actions, a lifetime of experience that Clara found both inspiring and humbling. During a brief break under the shade of an old oak tree, Clara and Samuel shared a rare moment of conversation. "You're doing well," Samuel said quietly, watching her eat a piece of bread. "Most people wouldn't last a week out here, let alone handle the cattle and chores. You've got determination." Clara smiled, feeling a warmth that had little to do with the sun. "Thank you," she replied. "I've had to be strong. I don't know any other way." Samuel's eyes softened for a moment, as if he understood more than she was saying. He didn't respond immediately, and the silence between them was comfortable, filled with the sounds of the wind through the trees and the distant lowing of cattle. Clara realized that she was beginning to see Samuel not just as her employer, but as a man shaped by life on this land, strong, quiet, and steady in ways that commanded respect. As the afternoon approached, Samuel took Clara on a ride across the plains. The horses galloped across the open land, hooves pounding the earth, wind whipping through their hair. Clara felt exhilaration she hadn't known before. The sense of freedom and connection to the land was intoxicating. Samuel guided her patiently, correcting her posture and giving tips on handling the horse. It was challenging, yet she felt a thrill in mastering each skill, each movement. She realized that life on the ranch was not just about work, but about learning to live in harmony with the land and the animals. Along the way, they came across a section of broken fence where the cattle could easily escape. Clara dismounted, and together they worked to repair it. Samuel showed her how to secure the posts, fasten the rails, and check for weak spots. As they worked side by side, Clara felt a connection forming, not just through shared labor, but through shared respect and understanding. Samuel's presence was steady and reassuring, and she began to feel that perhaps there was more to life on the ranch than mere survival. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they returned to the ranch house. The day had been long, but Clara felt a deep satisfaction. She was exhausted in body but invigorated in spirit. Samuel prepared a simple meal of bread, stew, and fresh milk. They ate together in companionable silence, the work of the day settling into a quiet rhythm. Clara noticed that Samuel occasionally glanced at her, and she felt a subtle warmth in his attention, though he remained reserved. After dinner, Samuel led her to a small storage room where she would sleep. It was simple, with a narrow bed and a small window overlooking the fields. Clara unpacked her belongings and arranged them neatly, feeling a sense of permanence she had rarely experienced. She thought about the day, the work, the lessons, the quiet moments with Samuel. She realized that she was beginning to feel at home here, in a place she had only just arrived at. That night, as she lay in bed listening to the wind rustling through the trees and the distant calls of animals settling in for the night, Clara reflected on how much she had already learned. She had survived her first full day on the ranch, gained a measure of Samuel's trust, and discovered a strength in herself she hadn't fully recognized. She knew that life here would be demanding, and that each day would bring new challenges, but she also felt a sense of hope and purpose that she hadn't felt in a long time. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of wide-open fields, galloping horses, and the steady, reassuring presence of Samuel. Clara knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but she was determined to face it. She understood now that this ranch, this land, and this man were all part of a new chapter in her life, one where hard work, courage, and trust could create a foundation for something lasting. By the time the first light of dawn crept through the window, Clara was already awake, planning her day and anticipating the tasks ahead. She felt a growing confidence, a sense that she could meet the demands of ranch life and perhaps even thrive. Samuel, though still reserved, had shown her a small measure of approval, and she knew that with each passing day, she would earn more of his respect and trust. Life on the ranch was not just about labor. It was about learning to understand the land, the animals, and the people around her. Clara felt that she was beginning to understand Samuel in a way that few outsiders ever did. He was a man of principle, strength, and quiet wisdom, and she admired him deeply. And though she tried not to think too much about it, she could not ignore the growing curiosity and admiration she felt for him, a feeling that was new and both exciting and confusing. The days turned into weeks, and Clara continued to adapt to the ranch life. Each morning brought new challenges, each task requiring patience, strength, and focus. She learned to anticipate the needs of the animals, to mend fences efficiently, and to manage small crises with confidence. Samuel remained a steady presence, offering guidance, encouragement, and occasional praise. Their bond grew slowly, built on mutual respect, shared effort, and a quiet understanding that transcended words. Clara began to see the beauty in the work itself, the way the sun reflected off the morning dew, the rhythm of tending to the animals, the satisfaction of seeing a task completed well. Life on the ranch was hard, yes, but it was honest, rewarding, and filled with lessons about patience, resilience, and trust. She knew that she had found a place where she could grow, contribute, and belong. By the end of the month, Clara had earned a firm place in the rhythm of the ranch. Samuel's trust in her was evident, not just in the work he allowed her to do independently, but in the small gestures of respect and acknowledgement he showed. Clara felt a quiet pride, knowing that she had proven herself not only capable but reliable, strong, and worthy of the responsibilities she had taken on. And so, life continued, each day building upon the last. Clara and Samuel worked side by side, learning from one another, facing challenges together, and slowly forming a bond that neither of them fully understood yet. It was a beginning, small but meaningful, a foundation for a story that was only just starting to unfold in the vast, sun-drenched plains of Red Creek. The morning was calm, with a soft breeze rustling the leaves and the distant hills bathed in golden light. Clara had learned to wake early now, and she moved through the ranch with practiced efficiency, tending to the animals, checking the fences, and preparing for the day ahead. Samuel, as usual, was already at work, moving with steady confidence across the fields. Though he said little, Clara had grown accustomed to his quiet presence. She felt a strange comfort in it, like a steady rhythm that the ranch itself seemed to follow. By mid-morning, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. The wind picked up, carrying with it a faint scent of rain, though it was not ordinary rain that was approaching. Clara could feel the tension in the air, the subtle warning that a storm was coming. Samuel, noticing her concern, gave a brief nod. "It's coming," he said simply. "We need to secure the animals and the ranch before it hits." Clara sprang into action. Together, they moved through the pastures, rounding up the cattle and guiding them towards safer areas. The animals sensed the change in weather, their movements becoming restless and erratic. Clara had to act quickly, using all the skills she had learned over the past weeks. She spoke softly to the animals, guiding them calmly, even as the wind began to pick up and the first drops of rain fell. Samuel was beside her every step of the way, his presence steadying her. He gave clear, concise instructions, and Clara followed without hesitation. The storm was approaching faster than expected, and the sky grew darker by the minute. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and lightning flashed across the plains. The air was thick with tension, and Clara could feel her heart racing with both fear and excitement. Once the animals were secure, they turned their attention to the ranch itself. Loose tools and equipment were quickly gathered, fences were checked and reinforced, and the smaller structures were secured. Clara worked tirelessly, her hands raw and her clothes soaked from the rain that had begun to fall steadily. Samuel moved with calm authority, his experience evident in every action. Watching him, Clara felt a deep admiration and a growing respect for the man who had taught her so much in such a short time. As the storm intensified, they made their way to the barn to take shelter. The wind howled, whipping rain against the wooden walls and causing the structure to groan under its force. Clara and Samuel worked together to ensure that the animals inside were safe and comfortable, securing gates and checking on each stall. The barn was dark except for the small light of a lantern, which cast shadows across the walls. Inside, the smell of hay, animals, and wet wood created a sense of intimacy that was comforting amidst the chaos outside. Once the animals were safe, Clara collapsed onto a bale of hay, exhausted but relieved. Samuel sat nearby, his expression serious as he watched the storm through the barn doors. The rain fell in sheets now, accompanied by fierce winds and booming thunder. Clara could feel the power of nature pressing against the ranch, but she also felt a sense of pride in their efforts. They had faced the storm together, and they had protected the land and the animals. The storm raged on for hours, and the barn became a place of quiet refuge. Clara noticed small details about Samuel that she had not seen before. The way his eyes softened when he checked on the animals, the way his hands moved with precision and care, and the rare, almost imperceptible smile that crossed his face when he saw her handling the tasks with skill. In that moment, she realized that there was more to him than the reserved exterior he presented to the world. As the rain poured down, Clara and Samuel began to talk, their voices low so as not to disturb the animals. Samuel admitted that he had been impressed with her from the moment she arrived. "You've got courage," he said. "Not everyone could handle this. Not everyone could handle me or the ranch, but you've earned your place here." Clara felt her cheeks flush. She had never received such a compliment before, especially from someone she respected so deeply. She thanked him quietly, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the firelight or the storm outside. They shared a rare moment of laughter when one of the younger horses nudged Clara playfully, causing her to stumble slightly. Samuel chuckled quietly, a sound that was unusual and comforting. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the barn there was a sense of calm and connection. Clara realized that they were no longer just employer and worker. They were partners facing the same challenges, sharing the same struggles, and slowly forming a bond built on trust and respect. As night fell, the storm showed no signs of letting up. The barn was dark and cozy, and Clara found herself sitting closer to Samuel than she had before. The sound of rain pounding on the roof, mixed with the occasional clap of thunder, created an intimate and intense atmosphere. Clara felt a flutter of emotion she could not fully name, a mixture of admiration, respect, and something deeper that she was only beginning to understand. Samuel, too, seemed aware of the unspoken connection between them, though he did not acknowledge it directly. Hours passed, and the storm finally began to subside. The rain slowed to a gentle patter, and the wind became less fierce. Clara and Samuel emerged from the barn to assess the damage and check on the ranch. The land was soaked, the fields glistening under the moonlight, and the air was fresh and clean after the storm. They walked together in silence, their footsteps soft on the wet earth, taking in the quiet beauty of the night. Clara realized how much she had grown over the past weeks. She had arrived in Red Creek uncertain and alone, but now she felt capable, strong, and respected. She had learned to work with her hands, to care for the animals, and to navigate the challenges of life on the ranch. And she had begun to understand the quiet, steadfast man who had welcomed her into his world. Samuel was not just a rancher. He was a teacher, a guide, and perhaps something more, a companion in the truest sense of the word. As they returned to the ranch house, Samuel spoke quietly. "You've done well today, more than well. You've faced the storm and you've faced it with courage. That's something most people never learn in a lifetime." Clara nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride and gratitude. She realized that this life, though hard, offered her something she had longed for, a sense of purpose, belonging, and the chance to prove herself. That night, as she lay in bed, Clara reflected on the day. The storm had tested her in ways she had not anticipated, pushing her to her limits and forcing her to rely on her skills and judgment. But it had also shown her the value of teamwork, trust, and quiet support. She thought about Samuel, about his steady presence and unspoken encouragement. She felt a growing connection to him, one that was based not on words, but on shared experience, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of one another. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of thunder, rain, and the endless plains of Red Creek. Clara dreamed of standing in the fields, guiding the animals and walking beside Samuel through the storm. She felt a sense of belonging and purpose that she had never known before, a feeling that this ranch, this land, and this man were now a central part of her life. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a refreshed and vibrant landscape. The grass sparkled with dew, the air was crisp and clean, and the animals moved freely once again. Clara and Samuel began their day with renewed energy, knowing that they had faced a challenge together and emerged stronger. The storm had tested them, but it had also brought them closer, forging a bond that neither of them could ignore. In the days that followed, Clara continued to prove herself on the ranch, handling tasks with confidence and skill. Samuel's trust in her grew, as did his quiet admiration. Their relationship remained professional on the surface, but beneath that, a deeper connection was forming, one built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and the unspoken recognition that they had found something rare in each other. Clara knew that life on the ranch would continue to be challenging, with each day bringing new tasks, obstacles, and lessons. But she also knew that she was no longer alone. She had Samuel by her side, steady, reliable, and understanding, and she had herself, strong, capable, and determined. Together, they would face whatever came next, side by side, learning, growing, and building a life that neither of them could have imagined alone. And so, the bond between Clara and Samuel deepened, forged in the storm, strengthened through shared labor, and nurtured by quiet understanding. In the vast, wild plains of Red Creek, under the endless sky and the sun that rose each morning, their story continued, a story of courage, resilience, trust, and the beginnings of a connection that would shape the rest of their lives. The days after the storm were filled with both relief and renewed activity. Clara had settled into her routine on the ranch, and she moved with confidence through the fields, barns, and pastures. The storm had left some minor damage, but Samuel and Clara worked together to repair fences, secure the outbuildings, and ensure that the animals were safe. Each day, Clara grew more capable, learning not just the physical tasks of ranch life, but the quiet judgment and patience required to care for a land so vast and demanding. Samuel observed her closely, noting how she anticipated problems before they arose, and how she approached each challenge with steady determination. Though he rarely spoke of his feelings, Clara could sense his approval in the small ways, the way he allowed her more independence, the occasional nod of acknowledgement, and the moments when he offered advice without criticism. Their relationship, once strictly professional, was beginning to develop a quiet intimacy rooted in trust, respect, and shared effort. One afternoon, a visitor arrived at the ranch. He was a well-dressed man, clearly from the town, who had known Clara in the past. His sudden appearance startled her. "Clara," he said with a smile, "I've been looking for you. Come with me. You don't need to be out here working so hard when you could have a better life." Clara's heart raced. She recognized the offer for what it was: comfort, ease, and a return to a life she had left behind. But she also knew the man's intentions were not entirely sincere. He wanted her to return to a familiar world, one that offered safety but little respect or personal growth. Clara hesitated, glancing at Samuel. His expression was calm, but she could sense the unspoken question in his eyes. What would she choose? She felt a surge of clarity. She had come to this ranch to build a life of her own choosing, to face challenges and prove her worth, and she could not abandon that now. "Thank you," she said to the man, "but my place is here. This is where I belong." The man's smile faltered and he left without another word, clearly disappointed. Clara turned to Samuel, unsure how he would respond. To her surprise, he simply nodded, a quiet acknowledgement of her choice. "Good," he said. "You made the right decision. It takes courage to choose the hard path, but it's the one that builds strength." Clara felt a deep sense of pride. She realized that this decision was more than a rejection of comfort. It was an affirmation of her growth, her independence, and her connection to the life she was creating on the ranch. As the weeks passed, Clara and Samuel continued to work side by side, their partnership strengthening with each shared task. They repaired fences together, tended to the animals, and even managed small business dealings related to the ranch. The bond between them deepened, unspoken but undeniable. Clara began to see Samuel not just as her employer, but as a man of principle, resilience, and quiet kindness. Samuel, in turn, found himself admiring Clara's courage, determination, and intelligence. Their respect for one another had grown into something more profound, though neither had yet admitted it aloud. Life on the ranch was not without its difficulties. There were long, exhausting days when the sun blazed down relentlessly, and tasks that seemed simple could take hours to complete. There were moments when the animals fell ill, when fences were damaged by storms, and when supplies ran low. Yet through each challenge, Clara and Samuel faced the obstacles together. The difficulties, rather than driving them apart, only strengthened their bond. They learned to anticipate each other's actions, to communicate without words, and to trust that they could rely on one another no matter what arose. One evening, as they repaired a section of fencing near the northern pastures, Samuel paused and looked at Clara. "You've changed this place," he said quietly. "Not just the work but the spirit of it. You've brought life and energy back to a place that had grown quiet, and I've noticed it." Clara's heart skipped a beat. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, and for the first time she felt that the feelings she had been sensing were mutual. She smiled softly, though words failed her. The days turned into months, and the seasons began to change. The harsh summer heat gave way to crisp autumn air, and the ranch adapted with the shift in weather. Clara and Samuel's bond continued to deepen, though the world beyond the ranch began to intrude. Travelers and townsfolk brought news, gossip, and reminders of the life Clara had left behind. Some doubted her choice to remain on the ranch. Others questioned the growing closeness between her and Samuel. Yet she remained steadfast, knowing that the life she had chosen, though demanding, was meaningful and true. A particular challenge came when a group of ranch hands arrived to assist with the harvest season. They were skeptical of Clara at first, unsure of her abilities and wary of her presence as Samuel's trusted companion. Clara faced their doubts with quiet confidence, demonstrating her skills, knowledge, and determination. Slowly, the workers began to respect her, recognizing that she was not only capable but integral to the success of the ranch. Samuel watched with quiet pride, silently acknowledging the way she had earned the trust of those around her. Through all these challenges, Clara and Samuel continued to learn about one another. They discovered shared values, complementary strengths, and a mutual understanding that went beyond words. Samuel admired Clara's courage, her independence, and her ability to face hardship without complaint. Clara admired Samuel's wisdom, his steady hand in the face of difficulty, and his unwavering sense of fairness. Together, they were not only partners in work, but partners in life, though neither had yet openly admitted the depth of their feelings. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, Clara and Samuel found themselves alone near the barn. The day's work was complete, and the ranch lay quiet except for the soft sounds of animals settling in for the night. Samuel spoke softly, almost hesitantly. "Life on the ranch isn't easy. It demands everything from us, strength, patience, and sometimes sacrifice. But it also gives something rare a chance to build something lasting." Clara looked at him, her heart pounding. She understood now that he was speaking not just about the ranch, but about the connection that had formed between them. Clara nodded, feeling a mixture of anticipation and certainty. "I understand," she replied, "and I'm ready to face it, all of it. Here with you, with the ranch, and with this life I've chosen." Samuel's gaze softened, and though he said nothing further, the unspoken understanding between them was clear. They were no longer simply employer and worker. They were partners, sharing the burdens, joys, and uncertainties of a life built on trust, courage, and mutual respect. As the stars emerged in the night sky, Clara felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She had faced the temptation of an easier life and had chosen the harder, more meaningful path. She had earned the respect of Samuel, the trust of the ranch hands, and a sense of purpose that filled her days with meaning. And she had discovered a bond with Samuel, a connection forged through shared effort, resilience, and understanding, that promised something enduring and profound. The following weeks brought more challenges, as they always did on a ranch. Storms, animal illnesses, and mechanical failures tested their skills and patience. Yet with each obstacle, Clara and Samuel grew closer, their partnership strengthened by the trials they faced together. They communicated with a glance, anticipated each other's actions, and relied on one another in ways that transcended simple work. The ranch had become more than a place of labor. It was a place of growth, discovery, and connection, where the foundations of trust and love were quietly being laid. Clara began to see Samuel in a new light. She noticed the small details, the way he moved with purpose, the careful consideration in his words, the rare but genuine smile that lit his face when he was pleased. And Samuel, in turn, observed Clara's courage, intelligence, and unwavering determination. He respected her not only for her skills, but for the character she had shown in every challenge they had faced. Together, they had built something more than a working relationship. They had created a shared life rooted in mutual respect, trust, and understanding. They had faced choices, temptation, and hardship, and had chosen to remain together, committed to the life they were creating. And though the depth of their feelings had not yet been fully acknowledged, the bond between them was undeniable, growing stronger with each passing day. The ranch, the land, and the animals had become a reflection of their partnership, resilient, steady, and capable of weathering any storm. Clara and Samuel had learned that love, trust, and commitment were not always about grand gestures, but about shared effort, quiet understanding, and unwavering support. And as they worked side by side, facing each new challenge together, they knew that the life they were building was both meaningful and lasting, a testament to the strength of character, courage, and heart. The ranch had settled into a comfortable rhythm, the days marked by hard work, quiet moments, and the occasional challenges that life in the Wild West always brought. Clara had become an indispensable part of this world. She woke with the sun, tended to the animals, checked fences, and learned to anticipate the needs of the land before they became problems. Samuel, as always, was a steady presence, guiding her, teaching her, and working alongside her through every task. But now, there was a subtle shift in the air between them, a quiet understanding, a bond that had grown from respect into something far deeper. One morning, Clara noticed the first hints of winter in the air. The sun rose pale over the horizon, and a thin layer of frost covered the fields. The animals needed extra care, and the days ahead promised more work than ever. Clara bundled herself in a warm shawl and stepped outside, ready to face the tasks ahead. Samuel was already in the fields, checking the fences for any weak points that the frost might damage. He glanced at Clara as she approached, and for a moment their eyes met in quiet recognition. No words were needed. They understood each other, and the unspoken connection between them was stronger than any conversation could express. The challenges of winter were not small. Snow threatened to block paths, storms could damage the fences, and the cold made even the simplest tasks difficult. Clara faced each day with determination, knowing that she was part of something larger than herself. Samuel, observing her, felt a growing admiration and gratitude. She had become his partner in every sense of the word, not just in work, but in spirit, in courage, and in heart. He realized that the quiet, steadfast bond they shared had grown into something that could no longer be ignored. One evening, after a long day of tending to the animals and securing the barns, Clara and Samuel stood together outside the ranch house, watching the sun set over the snow-dusted plains. The sky was painted with shades of pink, orange, and purple, reflecting on the frost-covered fields. The moment felt intimate, quiet, and almost sacred. Clara turned to Samuel, her cheeks flushed from the cold and the exertion of the day. "It's beautiful," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the crisp air. Samuel nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "It is," he agreed, "but not as beautiful as this, what we've built here, together." Clara's heart skipped a beat. She realized in that moment that the bond between them had deepened beyond respect and trust. It had grown into love, steady, quiet, and enduring, like the land they worked on together. Over the next few weeks, their relationship continued to blossom. They shared small gestures of care, Samuel bringing her a warm cup of coffee before the morning chores, Clara preparing a simple meal for them after a long day in the fields. They laughed together, shared stories, and supported one another through the challenges of ranch life. The ranch itself seemed to respond to their partnership, thriving under their combined efforts. Clara and Samuel were no longer simply working alongside each other, they were building a life together. One afternoon, news arrived from the town. A neighboring ranch was in trouble, their herd threatened by illness and a damaged fence. Samuel and Clara knew they had to help. Together, they traveled to the neighboring ranch, bringing supplies, repairing the fence, and assisting in caring for the animals. The experience was exhausting, but it reinforced the strength of their partnership. They worked seamlessly, understanding each other's actions and anticipating needs without a word. Clara realized that their bond had become unbreakable, forged through shared labor, trust, and mutual respect. Returning to their own ranch, Clara and Samuel found a quiet evening awaiting them. The sky was clear, stars twinkling overhead, and the cold air had a crisp freshness that invigorated them. Samuel led Clara to a small clearing near the barn, where a simple lantern had been set up, casting warm light across the snow. Clara looked around, surprised. Samuel's expression was serious, yet tender, and she could see the emotion in his eyes. "Clara," he began, his voice steady but soft, "these past months have changed my life. You've brought strength, courage, and life back to this ranch and to me. I cannot imagine this place or my life without you by my side." Clara felt tears prick at her eyes. She had never imagined that this quiet, reserved man could express such depth of feeling, yet every word rang true. Samuel continued, "I know life here is hard. It demands everything from us, our time, our energy, our strength. But I also know that it has given us something rare, a chance to build a life together, a future we can share." He reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "Clara, will you be my wife?" For a moment, Clara was speechless. Her heart swelled with joy, pride, and love. She thought of the journey she had taken, the hardships she had faced, the lessons she had learned, the trust and respect she had earned. She thought of Samuel, the man who had guided her, supported her, and grown to love her in quiet, steadfast ways. With a bright smile, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "Yes, I will." The following weeks were filled with preparations for a small celebration. The townsfolk were invited, and those who had once doubted Clara's place on the ranch now came to honor the couple. There was laughter, music, and a sense of community that made Clara's heart light. She realized that this life she had chosen, the hard, challenging, and honest life on the ranch, had brought her not only love but acceptance, respect, and a true sense of belonging. The wedding itself was simple but beautiful. Clara wore a modest dress, and Samuel stood tall beside her, pride and love shining in his eyes. The ceremony took place under the open sky, the vast plains of Red Creek stretching endlessly behind them. Friends, neighbors, and ranch hands gathered to witness their union, celebrating the partnership and love that had grown from trust, shared effort, and mutual respect. After the ceremony, Clara and Samuel returned to the ranch, now husband and wife. The land felt even more alive, as if it recognized the bond they shared. They continued their work together, but now with a deeper sense of purpose and joy. Every task, every chore, every moment spent on the ranch was a reminder of what they had built together, something strong, enduring, and filled with love. As the seasons changed, Clara and Samuel faced new challenges, as all ranchers do. There were harsh winters, scorching summers, and unexpected difficulties that tested their skills and resolve. Yet they faced each challenge together, their bond stronger than ever. They had learned that love was not just about words or grand gestures, but about shared effort, quiet support, and unwavering commitment. Clara often reflected on how far she had come, from the uncertain young woman who arrived in Red Creek, carrying a small suitcase and hope in her heart, to a confident, capable woman, respected by the townsfolk, trusted by Samuel, and finally, his wife. She realized that every struggle, every challenge, and every moment of hard work had brought her to this place, a place of love, belonging, and fulfillment. Samuel, too, often thought about the journey they had shared. He remembered the first days when Clara arrived, hesitant but determined, and how she had earned his respect and trust through her courage and resilience. He marveled at how their partnership had grown into love, and he cherished every moment they spent together on the ranch. He knew that their life would continue to have challenges, but he also knew that together they could face anything. Evenings on the ranch became a time of quiet reflection and shared joy. Clara and Samuel would sit by the fire, sharing stories of the day, planning for the future, and simply enjoying each other's company. The ranch, once a place of labor and solitude, had become a home, a place where love, trust, and partnership thrived. They had built not just a life, but a legacy, one that would continue to grow with each passing year. Clara knew that the words Samuel had once spoken to her, "You paid for me, now do it," were more than just instructions for work. They were a reminder of the trust, responsibility, and partnership that had brought them together. Together, they had faced the storms, the challenges, and the choices that life had thrown at them. And together, they had built a life filled with love, respect, and shared purpose. As the sun set over the vast plains of Red Creek, Clara and Samuel stood together, watching the sky glow with the colors of evening. Their hands were clasped, their hearts full, and their spirits intertwined. They knew that life on the ranch would continue to demand their strength, patience, and courage, but they also knew that they would face it side by side, as partners, as companions, and as husband and wife. In the quiet of the night, with the stars twinkling above and the land stretching endlessly before them, Clara and Samuel felt a profound sense of peace. They had found each other, built a life together, and created something lasting in the vast, wild beauty of the West. From the first day Clara arrived, uncertain and alone, to this moment of shared triumph and love, their journey had been filled with challenges, growth, and discovery. And now they faced the future together, ready for whatever life might bring, secure in the knowledge that they had found something rare, enduring, and true. And so, their story came full circle. From trust earned to love discovered, from hardship faced to a life shared, Clara and Samuel had proven that even in the harshest, wildest landscapes, courage, partnership, and love could triumph. The ranch continued to thrive under their care, and their bond, forged through work, respect, and shared experience, became a testament to the power of determination, trust, and the enduring strength of the human heart.